This video is about 1894 Winchester 30 Winchester center fire cartridge. This rifle was made in 1907. Teddy Roosevelt was president, and we had the Square New Deal in America. This is the rifle, 94. It has an octagon barrel, 26 inches long. That's how they were standard, 26 inches. And had, of course, the walnut stock and a Browning design. Fairly nice old rifle. And this is one of those stories about a rifle, not so much about the 1894 and the millions of these things that they produced over the years. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was probably one of the most made guns ever. I know there were 6 or 7 million of them made, and the old story is that the old Winchester 94 killed more white-tailed deer than any other rifle. I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's the old saying. Back in the 1980s, I got married in 87. We had children. We had a couple children in the 1990s, and we had bought a house. And I was working out of town about 25, 30 minutes, just the next town over. And I was a meat cutter / meat manager in a market. Back then, we cut a lot of swinging beef, so it was a different kind of trade for me than it was for a lot of guys out there now. Maybe not, but it was for me back then. In the supermarkets, we cut full quarters of beef. And, once a week I'd stop down after work at a gun shop. They had a pretty good sized gun shop down there. And I'd check the used rack out. And a lot of times, there's a lot of things I'd like to have had, but I didn't have the money for it, I had 2 kids, I had a mortgage and a car payment, and it just wasn't all that kind of money. But there was overtime, and I had plenty of it. So I always told my wife, I said, you can have 80% of my overtime if you think I could sock away a few dollars out of me. So by all means, take what you need. So I had a couple $100 saved up. Anyway, I saw this old rifle in the gun rack, and at that time, I just didn't have the 200. It was $250. I just didn't have the $250. So I thought about it and kind of walked around the gun shop thinking about it. I'm like, when am I going to get a chance to own an octagon barreled 30 Winchester center fire, a model 1894? I mean, you talk about a pre-64. This is a pre-14. So I thought, well, I'm going to see what I can do about laying it away. So I talked to the guy, and he said, well, you got any money down? I said, they knew who I was because I stopped down there all the time. I said, could you just hold it? And I said, I'll bring you some money next week. And he did. He put a hold tag on it. And I come back down, and I put $100 down on it. And I had, I think he had 90 days to pick it up, and I stretched that right out. Just believe it or not, it was, times were a little bit rough. I mean, I wasn't making that great of money, but, with the kids and everything you had, it is what it is. So eventually I did pick it up, and I was pretty excited about it. And I got some reloading dies. Within the year I had a reloading die, and I had borrowed a mold off a friend of mine, and I started making cast bullets. And that's the only way you could really shoot the thing, But even back then, $10 for 20 cartridges, maybe $12, probably maybe even a little bit more expensive. It cost quite a bit of money to go out there and shoot for a day. And that's what we did. We shot for a day. You'd shoot 50, 100 rounds out of this thing. So I cast my own bullets, and, I loaded up. Back then you could buy primers for, a couple of bucks for 100. And, the brass, oh yeah, it just, you could find brass all over the shooting ranges. We have game commission ranges here in Pennsylvania, and you hit the ranges in the morning, you could pick up all kind of brass. So I really didn't have to buy anything. So I worked up a load. I did go hunting with the rifle, so it has put meat on the table. I've shot deer with it, and but more importantly, I had it for the cowboy lever action. It's that time, which is just lever action rifle, and then we had a lever action silhouette shoot out to 500 meters, which, believe it or not, you could knock stuff down. Wouldn't recommend hunting at that range, but if you had the sight setting, you could knock a 60-pound ram down at 500 meters with one of these things. I mean, not every time I couldn't, but there are times where I've hit 6 out of 10, which is pretty impressive if you think about it. So anyway, the story about the rifle, other than what I had just said, is I had a rear sight on it that was it was one of those odd little, you lift it like an express sight, they call it, and it was set at 50 yards, and you flip up a leaf and it went to 100, and then you flip up another leaf and it went to 150. And I thought it was kind of a nuisance. It didn't really work anyway. And I had a tang sight on the back of an old Lyman #1 tang. But before I had knocked this sight out, I was at the shooting range, and a guy walked up and he says, "Boy," he says, "that's a nice old rifle you got." I said, "Well, thanks." I said, "A little rough shape," but I said, "I enjoy shooting it. It shoots all right." He says, "I'll bet you the sight's worth more than the rifle." I didn't know what he was talking. I thought maybe, well, this old Lyman sight, I can hardly think that'd be worth, $250. So I never really thought much about it. And then a couple of years went by, and we're well into the late 90s by then. And, the longer I was working, I kept moving up the ladder, and then, I was doing all right money wise, and I think it was, I want to say late 90s, early 2000s, probably early 2000s, maybe even mid. Anyway, I was on eBay looking up for a gun part, and I happened upon, I was looking for a Winchester part, and I happened upon this site for this particular rifle, which was an express sight. Now, I had knocked that express sight out years earlier, put it in one of the drawers over here in my gun room, and I looked on eBay, and it sold for like $325. And I'm like, it's just no way. It has to be like a typo or something like that. But I looked, and that's what it sold for. So I come upstairs, and I looked, and I tried to find the old site that I had knocked out, and I found it, and I took a picture of it, and I put it on eBay. I learned how to do all that, and I put it on eBay, and I got I think it was $308 or something for the site. And, I got that put into PayPal and then into my account. So the story of this rifle is I paid $250 for it. I sold the rear sight for $308. It was $250 plus tax. So I netted about $20, and I still have the rifle to shoot. I really didn't care for the sight anyway. Now, there's some purists out there that'll be, you shouldn't have sold the sight. But, that's just not how I look at firearms. It's just not, I don't collect them. This is not a collector's gun. I mean, this thing, if you look at the back here, this has got this isn't a swivel. This is a spoon that somebody bent, a spoon handle that they bent, and then put like a belt buckle type deal on for the sling. And up here, of course, they drilled a big hole through the fore-end cap and put another belt loop buckle on this end. Maybe tie a string or maybe some leather in between the two to carry the rifle around. So there's no danger of this ever being a collector's gun or a safe queen or whatever they call it. These are nice old rifles. But the collector rifles have long since disappeared from the market, and they're in safes around, the world, and the pristine things that everybody sees these things sell at auction and think, oh, my gun's worth so much money. The sad fact is guns in this shape aren't worth that much money. They're worth what someone's willing to give you, but they're not a collector's piece. I mean, this has got pieces of the stock broken out of it. It's missing all the original finish on the rear stock. It has some original finish on the fore end. Most of the blue has turned to brown. The barrel is actually, I would say that the barrel is about 85%, which is amazing. You know, not too bad. The gun works, functions fine. The barrel, it has strong rifling, but it's a dark bore. And guys out there understand what I mean by a dark bore. It's black, basically. It's got a lot of crud in it, a lot of rust, and you know you can try to brush that out till the cows come home. It's really hard to, you know, you don't want to damage it any more than it already is damaged. So these things start to shoot good when they're fouled out, and you know. It's no tack driver. These lever guns were never a tack driver, but you know, I could shoot pretty decent groups. Deer-sized animals at 100, 125 yards. That's what it was for. So that's the story of my old 1894 Winchester. This is what it is. I've had it for all these years, and it's paid for itself and bought dinner, and I still own the gun. And I'm hoping that one of my boys will, you know, give it to one of their boys. So this was a video. It's not an informational video, but appreciate you watching. If you'd like to subscribe or leave a comment, leave a like, I would appreciate that. And thanks for watching my